We've heard claims that quantum physics unlocks consciousness, but how far is this from scientific consensus? As someone interested in both quantum physics and consciousness, I wanted to find out. So I asked ChatGPT to draft an answer for me. And while it was pretty good, there were some improvements I wanted to make. So let's take a look at what ChatGPT wrote and why I made those refinements. Quantum physics has revealed a strange and counterintuitive reality at the smallest scales. Now, many have speculated that these bizarre phenomena, like dead and alive cats and multiple universes, might also play a role in explaining consciousness. But how does quantum physics relate to consciousness? How much of a role do quantum phenomena play in our mental lives? And what does the science say? Let's take a closer look. There are essentially three things one needs to know about the relationship between quantum physics and consciousness. First, we need to know what theories link them together. Second, we need to understand the empirical status of this idea, i.e., what evidence there is for it. And third, we need to know the major objections to this idea and where it all leaves us. Let's start with some key theories linking quantum processes to consciousness. In the 1990s, Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff proposed a theory called Orchestrated Objective Reduction, or Orch OR for short. According to Orch OR, consciousness arises from the collapse of quantum superpositions within neuronal microtubules. These are tiny structural components inside neurons. Penrose suggests that these quantum collapses are non-computable events tied to Gaussian arguments, while Hameroff argues that microtubules could harbor such quantum coherence. Exactly how this quantum stuff relates to the rest of the brain and the subjective experience of consciousness is not entirely clear. Other theories suggest that quantum information or entanglement might underpin certain aspects of neural processing or awareness, though often at a more speculative level. By contrast, quantum cognition uses the mathematical framework of quantum theory to model decision-making and memory without necessarily implying literal quantum processes in neurons. In summary, there are various theories attempting to link quantum physics to consciousness, with Orch OR being the most prominent example. Now let's move on to the second point, evidence. Is there any evidence supporting these theories? If so, how strong is it? Well, recent studies have shown that anesthetics acting on microtubules may delay loss of consciousness in rats. This could be interpreted as supporting a quantum-based mechanism of consciousness. However, it's worth noting that this is an indirect and one could argue somewhat shaky evidence. Of course, this doesn't rule out quantum effects playing a role in consciousness, but it highlights that we're still in the realm of speculation. Now, investigations at the Allen Institute and Google Quantum AI are actively exploring quantum phenomena in brain-like contexts. They use superconducting circuits to simulate quantum behavior in networks that mimic the connectivity of real neurons. However, while they report some interesting results, their studies remain more exploratory and don't provide a direct link to conscious experience yet. Other researchers have reported evidence of entanglement like signals in brain activity, which could hint at non-classical neural functions. Again, this is very new and indirect evidence, but at least theoretically relevant. So to sum up, while there have been some intriguing studies, none have provided definitive proof for a quantum basis of consciousness. We seem to be still far away from being able to actually measure quantum phenomena in the human brain. This brings us to the third point, namely the major criticisms of the idea that quantum physics plays a role in consciousness. One major issue is what physicists call the decoherence problem. The brain is a warm, wet, and noisy place. Any quantum superpositions needed for Orch OR to work would quickly be destroyed by environmental interactions. Physicist Max Tegmark estimated that decoherence times in microtubules would be femtoseconds, way too short to allow for neural processing. This argument is intuitively appealing, but its exact validity is debated. Some researchers claim that quantum effects might still be relevant in the brain, even if they're short-lived. For instance, They might trigger non-linear dynamics that give rise to complex behavior. Aside from this technical debate, many neuroscientists remain skeptical. Figures like Christoph Koch and Klaus Hepp argue that no slow, controllable quantum bits have been observed in neurons, and that brain function can be explained classically. Philosophers also have plenty of critiques ready. Even Nobel laureate John Searle and philosopher David Chalmers contend that quantum mechanisms do not necessarily resolve the hard problem of consciousness. They may just shift it. In summary, while the idea that quantum physics plays a role in consciousness is intriguing, it faces significant challenges. The decoherence problem and the lack of direct empirical support are major hurdles, though the technical details are hotly debated. So what does this leave us with? Should we give up on the idea that quantum physics has anything to do with consciousness? No, not necessarily. Despite the lack of direct evidence and the major technical challenges, the idea that quantum physics plays a role in consciousness remains attractive. Some see it as providing a fresh perspective on the mind-body problem, while others think it fits nicely with certain philosophical ideas like panpsychism or analytic idealism. Panpsychism holds that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality and that everything has some measure of consciousness. Analytic idealism, meanwhile, suggests that consciousness is fundamental and that the physical world emerges from it. The idea of quantum entanglement, which links the fates of particles regardless of distance, has also fueled speculation about interconnected minds or a universal consciousness. This idea, however, remains metaphysical and outside mainstream science. David Bohm's idea of the hollow movement is also worth mentioning. Bohm suggested that consciousness and physical reality both emerge from a deeper implicate order, a kind of quantum foam. This is a nice idea, but it's also highly speculative and currently not testable. So it doesn't really help us better understand the relationship between quantum physics and consciousness. In summary, the idea that quantum physics unlocks consciousness remains highly speculative, though it continues to inspire philosophical reflection and scientific inquiry. To conclude, quantum physics has revolutionized our understanding of the universe, but its role in consciousness is far from settled. Mainstream science currently favors a view in which consciousness emerges from classical neural processes. However, the idea that quantum effects play a role in consciousness remains tantalizing and continues to motivate research. It's possible that we'll eventually find evidence of quantum phenomena in the brain, but so far, direct proof remains elusive. While quantum-based theories like Orch OR face major challenges, including the decoherence problem, they haven't been disproven either. In a way, the question of whether quantum physics unlocks consciousness mirrors the mystery of consciousness itself. We all experience it, but pinning it down and understanding it, that's another matter. Perhaps the true nature of consciousness lies somewhere between the quantum and the classical, a harmony of the very small and the very large, the quantum and the classical. All right, now that I've written my version of the answer, let's get into why I changed what ChatGPT wrote. There were 3 major points where I thought my knowledge could improve on ChatGPT's response. First, when discussing Orch OR, I added a bit about the specific mechanism Penrose and Hameroff had in mind. Orch OR isn't just a general idea that quantum mechanics somehow causes consciousness. It's a specific proposal. Penrose and Hameroff want to explain consciousness by postulating that the collapse of superpositions in neuronal microtubules is what gives rise to conscious thought. I also clarified that the collapse of the wave function is a non-computable event according to Gödel's incompleteness theorems. This isn't strictly necessary to explain consciousness. It's just something Penrose believes as well. Second, I mentioned that many scientists consider quantum approaches to consciousness as highly speculative. This is an important nuance because while there is certainly active research on this topic, most working neuroscientists and cognitive scientists don't think quantum effects are actually necessary to explain consciousness. I find that ChatGPT sometimes struggles to convey nuances like this because it's trained on text that often presents science as a series of facts to be conveyed. However, conveying the state of current research and understanding is more nuanced than that. Hence, I felt that this nuance was an important addition. And finally, I expanded on the implications of quantum approaches to consciousness by talking about panpsychism and analytic idealism. While these ideas are highly speculative, they are also part of the broader context of quantum approaches to consciousness. So I thought it was important to mention them briefly. This also connects nicely to Bohm's idea of the hollow movement, which is a less known but fascinating idea in the philosophy of mind. So those were my major changes to ChatGPT's response. Overall, I think ChatGPT did a great job writing an answer to this question, and it was a pleasure to refine and expand on its answer. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, remember to subscribe for more videos about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing. Thanks for watching and see you next time.